Faith Bosworth is joining me on Google Hangout all the way from Berlin to talk about a very controversial project she took part in with the Peng Collective. Now that project was called Google Nest, but before we get into it, Faith, can you tell me what the Peng Collective does?
The Peng Collective is a group of artists, activists, political scientists who are all working together mainly in Berlin, and then we have a larger network. And the idea is to experiment with new ways to provoke debate and get attention to different political and social issues.
Now you're actually South African living in Berlin. How did you get involved?
Right. Yeah, so actually the Google Nest project is quite aligned with my work outside because Peng is just a part-time fun thing. And I've been working with an organization called Tactical Technology Collective, and that's why I moved to Berlin to work with them. And they're basically working at the intersection of activism, information, and technology.
All right, Faith, now I want to talk about Google Nest. This landed you in some hot water with Google. Why don't you tell us about the project?
So Google Nest was a hoax that we pulled off. We pretended to be Google employees with a new set of products called Google Nest at a very large internet conference in Berlin called Republica. And me and my colleague Jean Peters, we went on stage as Google employees on the main stage. We released a website, there was a press release, and we were kind of video live streamed as we presented this new concept of Google Nest, which entails four different products, which is Google Trust, which is insurance against data theft and surveillance, Google Bee, which is a personal drone for daily life. So it's a drone that has video live streaming capacity and can watch over your house and family and make sure that your kids are going where they say they're going, these kinds of things. As well as Google Buy, which is a virtual memorial to you when you die. It preserves your digital identity and highlights all the best parts of your life collected from your data which you've given to Google. As well, Google Hug, which is emotional well-being monitor. It checks in with you through your phone, etc., monitors your behavior, and then figures out when you're not feeling so good and connects you with someone else who's also not feeling so good. So as you can see, this is very satirical, and it was our way to use humor to raise awareness about the way that Google is gradually collecting more and more data about all of its users, in terms of our behavior, our lifestyle, the things that we buy, the things that we think, the things that we search for on the internet. And most of us are just handing over this information about ourselves and not really thinking about what the implications are. So we decided to use this technique to create a bit of critical debate about this issue.
All right, well, you stood up on stage and pretended to be a Google employee. Did people believe you?
Some people, some people believed us. I don't know how, but it was a mix. Our strategy was always to create confusion, because creating confusion is the best way to create debate, or one of the best ways, at least. So we had a lot of people who knew. Well, there were some people who knew. There were some people who weren't sure, and then there were some people who believed it.
Now, what was the response like?
The response was amazing, way more than we expected. I think the time at the moment is ripe. And then Google themselves, of course, the target, responded very quickly, which was also, we felt like a good sign of for the success of our campaign, because we got noticed very quickly. And they sent us a request to take down the website within 12 hours and sent one of their PR people actually to meet us in person at the Republica conference where we were.
Do you think that everyday users realize how much information they're making public online?
No, because I think the thing is we realize, of course, the information that we post to Facebook, etc., but we seldom think about the fact that Google, a company like Google, has access to every single thing that we search on the internet, our behavior, what kinds of articles we read, what kinds of things that we buy. Of course, all our email correspondence, even this video chat that we're having right now.
Which is quite ironic that we're having it on Google Hangout.
when you're using Google Maps, etc., it knows where you're going, etc. So all this data is being aggregated and being used to create a profile of you, and that profile is used to sell you more products. I mean, that's what Google's business model is. The more data they can collect, the more products that they can sell you, and the more targeted advertising is possible.
Now, in your opinion, is there any way around this, or is it something we just have to accept?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there are different strategies you can take. You can try and move off of Google services, but I think that the best way is for us to be applying more pressure and realizing that our data has a great value, and we shouldn't be giving it up so easily just in exchange for free services.
You said Google asked you to take the website down, and the website is down now, correct?
Right. So the website, as it was, the kind of the visual look and feel of it was taken. We took down the basic website, but we replaced it. We kept the domain name, which they actually asked us to give over because it says googlenest.org, and we replaced it with a documentation of everything that had happened, basically the whole story. But a lot of people have actually mirrored the site in order to preserve it. So we've got a few copies of it in different spaces on the internet. And the other thing to say that I didn't add in on the Google response earlier was that we actually have evidence that they probably censored our search results on the second day after we put the website up, because there was a point where you could find, if you search Google Nest on any other search engine, like Yahoo search engine or DuckDuckGo, you would find the Google Nest URL coming up in the first search results, and if you were doing it on Google, it wasn't appearing until the second or third page. And then actually a whole lot of people started tweeting screenshots of this, and then within a few hours, the Google PR person sent a message saying, "This is fixed, it's fine." So that was quite an interesting example of their response. And this also kind of connects to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the recent EU ruling that Google has the power to remove information from search results according to individual requests. So if I have some kind of, if in the past perhaps example. If, for example, in the past, I have some sort of criminal record and this comes up on search results, and then I want it removed, I can actually make a request to Google to remove that, and then they can decide whether they will or not.
Now that's almost good and bad in a way, that Google has so much control over what people have access to. Do you think that ruling is a step in the right direction?
No, I think definitely not. I think on one side, while it looks like it could be good for the individual citizen, we can only imagine how this will be used. This will be used for politicians to remove negative claims against them. Anyone who is in a position of power and gets exposed is then able to possibly remove that information. And basically, we should not have one company who's controlling our version of the world online, because this is now the predominant way that we understand and get knowledge about the world, right? So if one company is being able to control the limits of that, this is a problem.